station, which includes the county, the city of Willits, and the city of Fort Bragg. We also we're asking the same consulting firm to look at some new rate services for our South Coast area and our Anderson Valley area, both operated by SWOW. And then there was an administration charge by the consultant and a contingency that is at the discretion of the Director of Transportation. So the actual bill is $15,000. With regards to the Willits transfer station, though, this next slide, you know, as we all might remember, that is a joint powers agreement. So we would need to be working in partnership with the cities of Willits and Fort Bragg. The County Solid Waste Division is the contract administrator there, and we do receive about $7,000 annually from the transfer station in Willits for this function. So the monies have been coming in regularly over the years for this particular purpose. And the amendments, and should we amend the agreement with the Willits transfer station, and I'm fully expecting that the municipal management firm that we're retaining, the one that Paul spoke of, it's a firm that's familiar with SWOW, familiar with the county. I'm sure they're going to come back with a fuel COLA, if you will, that because I don't believe fuel is going to go lower. It's probably just going to keep going up. And I'm relying on their expertise, and they've performed this function for other jurisdictions. And so we're just another one in line for fuel COLA for our solid waste operations. And I'm pretty confident that the other jurisdictions that are partners in the agreement to the Willits transfer station operation by Solid Waste of Willits will want to see a professional cost analysis prior to approving an increase.
Yes, just to dovetail with that, the Solid Waste of Willits and Empire, have criticized me and the department. As you know, we went through a long hiatus without a solid waste director. We had a person there 6 months, and finally, Mr. Miller came on board. I don't think we provided a very good service in that time in timely, addressing these rate increases. They seem to come to us rather regularly with what fuel costs have been doing. And, the reason I went ahead and made this a $20,000 kind of comprehensive contract is I would like to, be able to more quickly respond to these rate increase requests and different functions where we need their assistance to make sure we're giving the public the value they deserve. It seems to be the function that we would perform more and more if we, went ahead and say with the privatization we just discussed. We'll be regulating and, checking the validity of the operations.
Supervisor.
First of all, Mr. Chairman, we're talking about the trucking business here with fuel. If you called up any trucking company, small or large, in probably throughout California, and asked them simply, what is your fuel surcharge? They'll give you a percentage. I don't know what the rating, what has been requested, but I know you can get some exact numbers on what, freight is freight, whether it's garbage, lumber, pears, or potatoes. And they're going to tell you what that percentage is, either per mile or per whatever you're hauling. They'll tell you it was a 3%. What they charge. For instance, you could call Pacific Lumber or Mendocino Redwood Products, and they'll tell you what the surcharge there to haul their freight has been because of the fuel at say at a $4 or 4.10 cents or 4.20. They have that. That's standard. I don't see spending $20,000 for basic information. I mean, then take that, what you get from those companies, and compare it to what Solid Waste of Willits' request is, and you're going to see if it's reasonable.
Well, Supervisor Pinches, I just don't feel comfortable with that. I'm dealing with the ratepayers and the taxpayers in this county's money, And if I'm working in a market forces situation where I'm getting a competitive bid for whatever project I'm building, and as you know, but even before I came to transportation, you know, I've been involved in where you buy things. If there's no competition involved, there has to be some pretty detailed analysis to make sure that the amounts asked for are fair. And it's not simple to me. I'm sorry, it just isn't. And these folks at Hilton Farm Hobson are leaders in the industry on it. They work with many municipalities. They know the industry inside and out. They can apply the different nuances, and I just feel like that money is well invested to make sure the people pay the right amount.
Well, as a taxpayer, it would drive me nuts to think that we had to spend $20,000 to see what a fuel adjustment would be. I mean, when it's standard, companies figure it out and do it all day long. If we're not capable in this county of figuring out what a fair and reasonable fuel adjustment increase is, then how are we ever going to solve the big issues?
I think the amount that the consulting firm was considering for, or actually they actually gave us a number in a proposal, and that's $5,000 for the Willits transfer station, $5,300 to be completely accurate.
The other amounts are for the evaluation of the other two areas.
The other two areas, there's $1,000 administration and then a $5,000 contingency, and the total, I'm sorry that slide got funkied up, but the total is $25,000. But the particular issue at the Willits transfer station, that's a $5,300 or $5,300. And if you'd like to move forward with that one, I think that would be very helpful to Solid Waste of Willits and their trucking company, who I understand has suffered with lower prices for a couple of years now. And I know Mr. Ward is sensitive to that.
Supervisor Smith, and then take comments from Mr. Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This might be a timely moment to talk about privatization. I mean, this is an actual contracting out more appropriately. You know, when the county needs a water rights attorney, we contract that out, and I don't think anyone would think that we ought to have on a full-time basis a full-time equivalent of a water rights attorney, because obviously we don't have a full-time need for one. So when we need specific professional services, I think if this is your recommendation, we ought to do it. I mean, this is putting money into the private sector, so it's interesting that you know, people don't seem to want to like use the same criteria to both of these discussions. I mean, this is money that's going, I think, into a private consulting firm. So, on this level, I think that this is appropriate. This is a narrow area of expertise that you are quite candidly telling us you don't have. Then we have Mr. Kaler has to come to the microphone, who used to do the activity, and he's saying, well, you know, actually, I did need to rely on professional services when I needed to do this kind of work. I mean, there is a time and a place for it. So I think we need to scrutinize it carefully, but if that's what's going to review the Willits function and the South Coast ones, I mean, I don't think you've come up with this proposal just to spend money just to spend it. Again, it's putting money into the private sector. So, you know, on this one, I think we ought to do it.
Okay, Mr. Ward, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, this surcharge is a second one we've done. We did one 3 years ago. Paul Kaler was at the helm of Solid Waste Division. We did not use a outside consulting firm. Paul did it himself, and he did an excellent job. He shepherded through the city of Fort Bragg, city of Willits, and then on to the county of Mendocino. Our subcontractor, Schuster Enterprise, who does the hauling for the transfer station, has provided all the information of what the fuel has cost for the last, well, since the beginning, 8 years, but he's asking for a larger increase in the